Okay, I would like to talk about the housing crisis. Would you? Let's. That's what it is. It's a crisis.
Bloody crisis.
It's a bloody horrendous crisis. There's a lot of crises in the world, like wars and stuff, but the housing crisis is important to me because I pay £400 to live in a glorified box. So that's, and you all watching probably have a similar feeling, right? Here's the state of affairs, right? So 16 to 24-year-olds, by one report that came out last year, without state help, were putting 88% of their income, gross income, into housing, right? So in 1996, mortgages were 17.5% of income. By 2008, that's risen to 49.3%. If you're in London, it's risen to over 65%, right? So this, you can be damn sure that your income hasn't been rising comparatively. Obviously, that's a percentage of income. So this is a huge deal, and all of that money that was being spent on other goods in our economy, and we had to make our lives nice by buying things which make us feel better, is now just going into housing, right? So this is bad for our economy. It's terrible for our economy and for our industry. It's also just awful for people's quality of life. People are paying more, but I wager people are also getting less for their money. Mm-hmm. We have the smallest and most expensive houses in the whole of Europe, right? And yet we're one of the largest economies in the world. So something is clearly very wrong here, and I think this is one area which, if we solve, can boost people's happiness and quality of life and the economy hugely. But I've got to admit, it feels like not much is being done about it.
All right, so why is this happening?
Why is this happening? Okay, I think there could be 1,000 reasons that people give for this. People say that it's the population growth and the mass migration coming from Europe has created this large demand for housing. That's one argument. Population growth in general, right? Then there's NIMBYism, people not allowing to build in their backyard, not in my backyard. And then we have buy to let. That's another one, right? We've got all kinds of arguments. I think there's one very simple one. We're not building enough houses, right? We're not building enough houses. So I've got some good figures on this. So in the 19 years from 1969 to 1989, we built over 4.3 million houses in England. In the 19 years from 1994 to 2012, we built fewer than 2.7 million. So that's 4.3 in that 30, 6, 9, 79, 8, 9, 20-year period. Yeah. And then in this similar period, 2.7, right? So there's been this massive drop in the actual building of houses, and at the same time, we haven't all just been not having children, have we? We've all been, the population's been growing. So there's not enough houses. And the National Housing and Planning Advice Unit estimated that to stabilise affordability, and that's just stabilise, 237,000 to 290,000 new houses are needed per year, which means that from 1994 to 2012, building fell short by 1.6 to 2.3 million houses.
Okay. Someone
wasn't doing their job properly in that period of time, right?
But how is it possible? How is it possible that we need these houses, and that if there's demand, there's supply? That's what we learn from conservative economics. That's what it teaches us. Why is the supply not coming about? What's the problem?
I think at the heart of it, if I'm going to get straight to the point, is the cost of land. There's not enough land available, and if I say to you the two words planning permission, what happens in your brain?
Granny annex. The two words against my dad had to apply for planning permission for his granny annex.
But I think
you're asking the wrong place.
I think this is a good point, right? Yeah. So just to get your granny annex, can I not just have a granny annex? You need to get this planning permission, right? Yeah. So this actually comes from the 1947, I believe it is, or around that period of time, Town and Planning Act, which meant that any difference in the purpose of what something was being used for required some kind of planning permission. It wasn't always this way, and it's not this way in countries across Europe, right? This is a specific law that came in. It wasn't like it before, it's not like that everywhere else. And that that means that there's very small amounts of land in this country that you have planning permission to build on. The reason I asked you about planning permission is because I feel like it's embedded in our culture. If we hear planning permission, we just kind of go, oh, you know? So we know somewhere in there that it's a problem.
Right. Okay, so planning permission is complicated, we get that. But surely there's more to the story than that. Surely it's more than just it's difficult to apply. What is the problem with the actual land itself?
Well, there's just a very small amount of land that actually has planning permission, and only a small amount is released each year. These small little parcels, right? And the people who can, so whoever has the money, which is generally huge real estate firms, can just buy that right there and then. And really, they have an incentive to just hold on to that, because the price is just going to go up and up, right? Because there's not many more houses, but there's more and more and more demand. So the price is just rising. And this is where you get the criticism of speculators. But at the heart of the problem is not really the reason that people are holding on to land so much, is because our policy treats it like an investment, right? It's like gold. There's a fixed amount of gold, but there's a lot of people that potentially want it, right? And it's the same with housing. That shouldn't be how it is. So no wonder people hold on to it, because it's very stable it's a stable investment in our very turbulent economic times, right? Times of economic turbulence, things like gold and silver, which have a kind of stable value, they go up. So if you look at, so let's look here. A hectare of agricultural land on the edge of Oxford may cost £6,000 to £10,000. Similar land with planning permission might be £4 million.
Jesus.
Right?
So with the planning permission, that elevates the cost quite a bit, quite considerably.
You can see that there's this real problem with land we can build on. House prices have gone up fivefold since 1955, but the price of land needed to put those houses on has increased in real terms 15-fold. So this is a problem with land, right? We need land to build houses on, but there's no permission. So I think at the centre of this housing crisis is two things. We need to build more houses, but we can't just build more houses with all kinds of creative solutions, like Boris put forward a scheme which was one of the most innovative ways to solve London's houses crisis, and they're like build above schools, build above hospitals, build on rivers, you know.
There's a private company starting up in London, and they're selling shells. They're basically building shells of houses.
Another example, right? Yeah. Like prefabs, and this is useful for building more houses. But if we don't solve the land problem, then we're not solving it, right? So Germany and Switzerland are examples of countries who don't have these laws and have a functioning housing market. I depressingly looked at properties in Berlin recently, and it would be so much better if I lived there.
So what can we do?
What can we do? So what can
Theresa May do about this?
She can reform planning laws, plain and simple, right? But we also need a place to build these houses, and I think this is where NIMBYism comes in. Let's have a look here. So twice as many houses were built in Doncaster and Barnsley, those high-class enclaves of aristocracy.
If you live in those places, by the way, we do appreciate your viewing.
I don't live in an enclave of aristocracy either, so we're on the same level.
Paul does not speak for News Without Borders.
Doncaster and Barnsley. So twice as many houses were built in Doncaster and Barnsley in the 5 years to 2013 than in Oxford and Cambridge, right? So in other words, you've got these politically able, wealthy people who don't want the riffraff coming in and living in their areas. So
gentrification,
right? And there's a certain amount of NIMBYism here. So that's a problem. And there's also this case of the campaign to protect rural England's deification and making sacred of the Green Belt, right? The Green Belt. What comes to mind when you think of the Green Belt? Probably
lush landscapes of green and golf courses and trees.
It's not this, this lush landscape as we described. I mean, most of it's, cabbage field, intensive arable farming, which actually has a net negative impact on the environment, and its protection was mostly arbitrary, right? These are not national heritage sites. And golf courses, pony fields, to a large extent, it serves as a kind of subsidy to the wealthy who are able to who live in these places already. So, if we were to build 350,000 houses per year, and we did that for 10 years, then we would still only have built on 0.1% of additional land in the UK, right? To put this in perspective. And I don't think any of us are going to be lacking for beautiful places to go and visit in England. I mean, for a start, half of the land that is in our built-up areas is either gardens or parks or other green places where we can go. Mm-hmm. So, when the campaign to protect rural England comes out and tries to tell you that if we build on the green belt, we're basically destroying Albion and we'll have nowhere left to go, tell them where to stick it. That's an index finger, by the way, not, you know.
Is it going into an arsenal though? just to clarify, the viewers might be...
It's, you know, it's going to make a firm point.
Right.
Up an arsehole.
You heard it here first.